Not all light illuminates, some only blinds. Have you ever stopped to think about this? How much the brightness of things can hide what we truly are, and what the world tries to make us believe is right. We live in an age where everything seems impeccable, perfect faces, speeches of purity, promises of justice and balance. But behind this luminous facade lies a silent system that fuels the darkness it claims to combat. A world that pretends to be light, but in reality shines only to keep everyone blind. And the frightening thing is that the more this false glow grows, the more the shadows seem to take shape. Imagine a place where every act of kindness is measured, every gesture of compassion is monitored, and every spoken word is used as an instrument of control. A world where the light dictates what is moral, what is acceptable, what can and cannot exist. At first glance, it seems perfect. After all, who wouldn't want to live in a place free from chaos, corruption, and pain? But what if this perfection is just a mask? What if, behind the rhetoric of purity, lie distorted truths, fake heroes, and decisions that sacrifice what is most human for the sake of appearances? Have you ever experienced this? That feeling that something is wrong even when everything seems right, as if the brightness around you hides invisible cracks, as if there were a hidden truth behind every beautiful word. For this is precisely where conflict arises, between what the world calls light and what truly brings clarity. Justice, when manipulated, becomes tyranny. Purity, when imposed, becomes prison. And good, when used as a disguise, can be more cruel than evil itself. Stay with me until the end, because what you're about to discover may surprise you. The true villain may never have lived in the shadows. Perhaps he's always been in the spotlight. People applaud the brilliance, but they don't realize the price it exacts. And in this scenario, where everything seems set in stone, the question arises, who's truly on the right side? The one who blindly obeys, or the one who has the courage to question? The most intriguing thing is that the light of this world doesn't just guide, it controls. And the more intense it becomes, the more it destroys everything imperfect, as if imperfection were a disease to be eradicated. But it is precisely in imperfection that truth, balance, and genuineness reside. It is there, in the flaws and shadows, that humanity breathes. And when the light tries to extinguish these, it itself becomes what it swore to destroy. Behind this false perfection lies a system of power built on carefully polished lies. False heroes are exalted, while those who dare question are silenced. And the irony is that the more this world screams about justice, the more unjust it becomes. The truth is not welcome here because it doesn't shine, it disturbs, it unmasks. And that's precisely why many prefer the comfort of blindness to the pain of conscience. But what if someone refused to accept this? If a voice, born from the silence itself, decided to confront the false glow and reveal what truly lies between the lines of light? This is where everything begins to change. Because every story that challenges the system is born from the courage to see what no one wants to see. Now, I want to take you even deeper into this universe, where the line between light and shadow dissolves, and truth reveals its price. But before we delve deeper into this story, tell me, one thing, does this all make sense to you? Has this feeling of living in a world that claims to be enlightened but seems increasingly dark ever crossed your mind? If so, leave a comment below with what's touched you most so far. I really want to know what you think, because this isn't just my space, it's ours. Every opinion, every reflection you share here helps build a community of people who see beyond the obvious, who aren't afraid to question what seems too perfect. And look, if this topic makes you think, if it sparks your curiosity to understand what lies behind the mask of light, then leave your like. It may seem like a small gesture, but when you do this, the algorithm understands that this kind of story deserves to be told to more people. And that's how the message spreads. That's how more people discover that darkness isn't always the enemy, and that sometimes it's in darkness that we find the truth that the light has hidden. And if you've made it this far, it's because something in this narrative captivated you. So here's what you need to do. Subscribe to the channel and activate the bell to continue this journey with me. What lies ahead will further challenge your perception of right and wrong, light and shadow, hero and villain. Your presence here is what keeps this flame burning. Each new subscription is like a spark that keeps this story alive, resonating with those who also seek to see the world without filters. Because in the end, what we're building, here goes beyond a simple video. It's almost like a collective awakening, a reminder that not all clarity is truth, and that understanding this is the first step to freeing your own mind. Now, take a deep breath, because what comes next will take you even deeper into this world that swore to be light, but hides a secret few are ready to see. From an early age, he learned that not all light truly illuminates. Growing up among ruins that seemed to hide ancient secrets, the son of darkness observed a world that smiled to itself while ignoring the suffering around it. While children his age were taught to venerate the saints of light, he saw what no one wanted to face: inequality masquerading as justice, pain ignored under the cloak of order, and the forgotten victims no one remembered to protect. Every ruin he passed, every lost glance of someone abandoned, planted a spark of understanding, and at the same time, a seed of revolt. He didn't need heroic stories to grasp the truth. Reality spoke for itself, and this truth shaped him silently but profoundly. Now I want to delve even deeper into this subject, because it is in this context that we begin to understand how a mind shaped by the contrast between light and darkness begins to develop a unique worldview. He is not born a villain, but someone who questions what everyone accepts as right. Someone who perceives the fragility of superficial morality and feels the weight of decisions imposed by those who claim to be righteous. Every injustice witnessed, every silent betrayal, every elegant lie from the powerful reinforces in him the awareness that there is another path, not of wanton destruction, but of transformation. It is at this point that the complexity of his journey is constructed, the embryo of a character carrying pain, conscience, and a deep desire to balance what has been corrupted. And it's precisely this childhood, marked by the contrast between what's visible and what really exists, that explains his hatred. And at the same time, his ability to see beyond the obvious. He comments, "I'm on that journey too." He grew up seeing faces that smiled at everyone, but whose smiles hid secrets no one dared question. Those celebrated as heroes, extolled in stories and songs of glory, gradually revealed themselves to be cold manipulators, willing to sacrifice innocence in the name of an order they themselves dictated. The son of darkness watched this silent farce, feeling each lie erode the foundation of his trust in the world. Each act of hypocrisy, each broken promise, was like an invisible blade, cutting not only the last of hope, but also leaving deep scars of disillusionment. He began to realize that the justice the world so revered was nothing more than a carefully rehearsed theater where those who were supposed to protect, in fact, exploited and controlled. Now I want to delve even deeper into this subject, because it is in this clash that critical consciousness is born, the realization that appearances never tell the whole story. He understands that the light that shines so brightly for everyone is not necessarily pure. Sometimes it blinds, distorts, and imprisons. It is at this point that hatred begins to take shape, not as a blind feeling of destruction, but as a reaction to the hidden truth that few have the courage to see. It is the beginning of an internal transformation, where pain becomes fuel for decisions that will shape not only his trajectory, but the impact it will have on everything around him. He feels that the only way to fully exist is by confronting this hypocrisy, testing limits, and questioning every law that seemed immutable. And it's in this awakening that we begin to understand the complexity of what he feels and what he'll be capable of. He comments, "That makes sense to me. He was there, hidden in the shadows of an alley, when he saw it all happen. A man, known for his purity and influence, pointed an accusing finger at someone who had done nothing, while everyone else's eyes turned, complicit in a lie so well constructed it seemed inevitable. The son of darkness felt something inside him shatter. What had once been trust in order, in justice, now revealed itself as a carefully crafted illusion. Every false word, every theatrical gesture carried the weight of the corruption that was spreading silently but deadly through the heart of that world. He realized that those who were supposed to protect were, in fact, the architects of others' pain, and that the light everyone venerated did not illuminate, only conceal. Now I want to delve even deeper into this subject, because it is at this moment that the seed of critical consciousness is formed, the realization that not everything that shines is good, and not every law serves the truth. He understands that to survive and exist fully, it is necessary to question every decision, every hierarchy, every seemingly immutable norm. It is the first spark of an internal transformation, where pain becomes fuel for rebellion, where hatred emerges not as wanton destruction, but as a force that seeks true justice, even if it means facing the entire world. He begins to understand that the heroes everyone venerates are unnecessary. What the world really needs is truth, and that sometimes truth comes with the darkness everyone fears. Comment there. I'm on this journey too. He remains silent, but something within him begins to shift. Every round of applause rings more false. Every public smile seems like an ill-fitting mask. He watches the heroes being extolled as saviors, while between the lines he sees the price no one mentions, the lives destroyed, the truths distorted, the pacts made in the shadows in the name of a good that was never as pure as they preached. It is in this contrast between rhetoric and reality that his vision begins to shatter. The light that once guided him now blinds him, and the more he tries to understand, the more he realizes that the brightness serves only to hide the cracks. Little by little, he understands that the true lie lies not in declared evil, but in staged goodness. The world has grown accustomed to living within this illusion, nurturing a blind faith in symbols that have lost their meaning. It is there that silent revolt arises, not as an explosion, but as a cold flame that slowly grows, consuming everything within. He doesn't shout, doesn't accuse, just observes. And the more he observes, the more lucid he becomes. The voice of darkness begins to speak to him, but it doesn't sound like something evil. It sounds like reason, as if to say, "You always knew, you just didn't want to see." This lucidity hurts. It shatters certainties, destroys beliefs, reveals behind-the-scenes details no one wants to face. But at the same time, it brings a strange sense of liberation. Because when you understand that good can be just a script and that heroes also bleed, something inside you breaks. And it is in this rupture that transformation begins. He no longer seeks approval, he seeks truth. And it is in this search that his new mindset emerges. Cold, analytical, conscious. He realizes that the justice they preach is nothing more than a disguise, and that to see the hidden truth, it takes courage to face what lies behind the light. Now I want to go even deeper into this subject, because it is at this point, between disillusionment and awakening, that the true villain is born, not from hatred, but from clarity. Comment there, I see what no one wants to see. Little by little, he begins to see that the light, the very light the world idolizes as a symbol of purity and truth, is nothing more than a well-constructed disguise, a lit stage that hides the grimy backstage of reality. People believe they are walking in the light, but they live blind, distracted by the brightness that masks decay. The light, he realizes, was never about kindness, it was about control, a tool used to keep everyone, looking in the right direction, while the shadows continue to work silently, shaping the fate of those who believe they are awake. This revelation comes not with fury, but with a lucidity that cuts like a blade. He feels the weight of deception, the bitter taste of having fought for something that never existed. Everything he believed sacred, justice, morality, truth, now reveals itself as a mechanism manipulated by invisible hands. Light is merely the veneer covering the rot. And the most ironic thing is to realize that, while everyone worships it, it is the shadows that sustain the world. Darkness is the foundation, the forgotten base, the territory where truth need not hide. It is at this moment that the transformation begins. He stops fearing the darkness and begins to understand it as a refuge. The light lies, but the shadows are honest. They promise nothing. They don't pretend to be what they are not. Within them, he finds something that the light never offered: authenticity. And it is precisely this authenticity that awakens him to what must be done, because now he knows the lie of the light must be exposed, even if it makes him the enemy of all. His mindset changes completely. Anger gives way to clarity. Despair transforms into purpose. He no longer wants to destroy the world. He wants to reveal it, to show what really happens when the curtains of appearance fall, the hidden truth that no one wants to see. And in this decision, the hero dies once and for all, giving way to the conscious villain, the one who seeks not to be loved but to be understood, the one who bears the burden of saying what no one has the courage to admit. Now I want to delve even deeper into this subject, because this revelation isn't just about the world outside, but about what happens within it. Light and darkness have always coexisted, but what he never realized is that the real war isn't between them. It's within each of us. Comment there. I see beyond the light. Anger is a dangerous force, destructive when misdirected but transformative when understood. At first he tried to deny it. He pretended he could extinguish the fire within with the calm he once learned to call virtue. But the truth is, some wounds don't heal with silence. They scream, burn, demand an answer, and it was in this inner fire that something began to change. The hatred, once blind, began to take shape. It ceased to be just emotion and became purpose. A cold, calculated, lucid purpose. He no longer wanted revenge. He wanted revelation. He wanted to expose the rot of a world that insists on hiding behind smiles and speeches of purity. He understood that true justice is not made of promises, but of impact. And real impact comes not from kindness that pleases, but from truth that disturbs. Anger, then, became his weapon, not to destroy everything, but to illuminate what the world insists on keeping in the shadows. It's curious how, when someone awakens to their true selves, the world calls them dangerous. The system fears those who no longer allow themselves to be manipulated, those who break the cycle of obedience and decide to think for themselves. And he understood this early on. He realized that to overturn the lie, he needed to become the distortion itself, the dark reflection that forces others to face what they've always denied. That's how the hero ceased to exist, and the symbol was born. The symbol that carries in its veins the mixture of pain, conscience, and purpose. Behind this new outlook, there is no longer naivete, there is discernment. He understands that not all destruction is evil. Sometimes it's just the price of reconstruction. And silently, he begins to accept his role as the one who will challenge the false balance that governs the world. Every decision now is driven by a different mindset, not that of the boy seeking approval, but that of the man who understood the true essence of power, not to dominate, but to reveal. His journey is marked by a paradox. The more he becomes what the world fears, the closer he comes to his own truth. It's the irony of transformation. To expose the lie of the light, one must completely immerse himself in the darkness. He no longer fears judgment nor labeling, because now he knows the shadow hasn't corrupted him, it simply freed him from the illusions that imprisoned him. Now I want to delve even deeper into this subject, because from this point on, anger is no longer a burden, it's an engine, the fuel of a new era, where the conscious villain emerges not as a threat, but as an inevitable consequence of a world that would rather lie than change. Comment there. That makes sense to me. The isolation didn't begin suddenly. It was like a slow poison, seeping between the days until silence became the only familiar sound. When the world decides to call you a traitor, a heretic, a monster, it's as if each word is an invisible blade, and no matter how much the body resists, the mind begins to doubt. What if they're right? What if I really am the mistake everyone points to? But it's in this abyss that the hidden truth begins to whisper. It's there, when everything seems to be falling apart, that transformation begins, not like a sudden flash of light, but like a quiet fire that refuses to go out. Loneliness shapes, hardens, and creates a different kind of strength. Those who learn to bear the weight of their own silence discover something few have the courage to face: their own essence. And this is a journey without applause, without witnesses, where every decision is an internal struggle between what you were and what you need to become. Isolation leaves scars, but it also reveals what lies behind the mask. And sometimes what lies behind is more powerful than the very world that tried to bury you. People run from loneliness because it reveals who we truly are. It reveals the fragility hidden behind a firm voice, the doubt camouflaged in a confident gaze. But for some, this confrontation is inevitable, because only those who face their own emptiness can understand the impact of rebuilding from scratch. And that's where true change is born, not through external acceptance, but through the silent decision to carry on, even when no one believes in it anymore. The curious thing is that the more the world tries to silence someone, the more they awaken. Rejection becomes fuel, and exile a sanctuary. It is in the darkest hours that the mind expands, that the most dangerous and most liberating thoughts take shape. And those who make it through this phase understand something the rest never will: the power of not needing acceptance to exist fully. Now I want to delve even deeper into this subject, because isolation, as cruel as it may seem, is also the gateway to reconstruction. The one the world calls a monster is, in fact, someone who dared to break the bonds of illusion. And when he begins to see what lies beneath the surface, he realizes that the true betrayal was never against the world, but against himself, when he believed he needed to belong to have value. Comment there. I'm on this journey too. Transformation doesn't happen in an instant. It builds, fragment by fragment, within someone who has already lost everything, including faith in what he called right. When the world proves corrupt, when the light that should guide begins to blind, something within him awakens. It's not hatred, it's clarity, the realization that perhaps the truth has always been distorted, hidden behind the masks of morality. The boy who believed in the purity of intentions now understands that the light also lies, that the system he swore to protect fuels the very chaos it claims to fight. And that's when the rupture happens. He stops trying to save the world and decides to rewrite it. What was once fragility transforms into conviction. Pain, once a source of despair, becomes the fuel that drives his new decisions. And each step he takes now carries a silent, almost sacred purpose: to restore balance to what destroyed him. He doesn't want to be the hero, because you've already realized that heroes are shaped by the very system he swore to overthrow. He wants to be what the system fears most: the anomaly that cannot be controlled, the error that defies logic, the reflection of the very failure of light. It's curious how the line between good and evil blurs when you look behind the scenes. He hasn't become cruel, just free. And freedom, when Complete is frightening because it doesn't ask for permission, doesn't seek approval, and much less bows to collective hypocrisy. This is the hidden truth of transformation. The conscious villain isn't born of evil, but of lucidity. He's the direct result of a world that pushes too much, judges too much, corrupts too much. A world that creates monsters and then calls them threats, when in fact they've simply decided to stop obeying. His journey is a mirror for everyone who has ever felt betrayed by their own reality, because on some level, every human being has felt the urge to break free from what is imposed. But few have the courage to cross the line and embrace chaos head-on. He did, and that's why his presence is so disturbing. His transformation is a reminder that there is no absolute purity, only conflicting perspectives. Now, I want to delve even deeper into this subject, because what comes after this transformation isn't just power, it's the consolidation of a new mindset. The beginning of an era where justice ceases to be ideal and becomes decisive, cold, calculated, but paradoxically more humane than anything that came before. Comment there. That makes sense to me. The shadows no longer frighten him. On the contrary, it is in them that he finally finds peace. For so long, he believed that darkness was the opposite of light, a mistake, a failure, a punishment. But now he understands that it is there, between silence and the unknown, that true clarity is born. The world taught him to fear the dark, but it never explained what truly lurks within. And it is precisely this omission that awakens him, because deep down, light has always needed shadow to exist. It just never had the courage to admit it. He looks at the world he once tried to save and sees clearly how rotten everything is. The masks, the lies, the justice molded by convenience. There is no purity, only appearance. And it is in that moment, between rage and understanding, that he makes the oath. Not an oath made of words, but of purpose. A silent vow sealed deep in his soul that he will never again bow to the collective illusion. For the light has become corrupt, and the truth now dwells in darkness. This decision isn't born of hatred, but of lucidity. It's the exact point at which the hero dies, not because he's defeated, but because he chooses to see what no one else can bear to see. He understands that to break the cycle, he must become the force the system itself fears. And by accepting this fate, something changes in his presence. His once hesitant gaze becomes firm. His once divided heart now beats with conviction. There's no more room for regrets, nor for doubts. He's crossed the line with no chance of return. Every step he takes from here is a pact with the unknown. The voices of the past still call to him, whispering memories of who he was, trying to make him hesitate. But the boy who believed in the light no longer exists. Only the man shaped by hidden truth, by pain that has become direction, remains. He no longer fights to be understood. He fights to expose what is hidden. And this is the essence of the conscious villain, the individual who understands that sometimes it is necessary to destroy, to rebuild, to erase, to illuminate, to disappear, to be reborn. And then, under the cover of darkness, he lifts his head and pronounces, with a calm that chills the very air around him, "If the world insists on living in the lie of light, then I will be the truth in the shadows." These words are not just a declaration, they are baptism, the moment when the last shred of innocence is shattered and the birth of the Son of Darkness takes place before a universe that will never understand his intentions. Now, I want to delve even deeper into this subject, because this oath isn't the end. It's the beginning of something much greater. A journey where each decision carries the weight of transformation and the impact of those who have decided to become a reflection of their own truth. Comment there. I understand darkness. If you've made it this far, it's because something inside you connected with this story. Perhaps not because of the darkness itself, but because of the journey it represents. The process of breaking old beliefs and seeing the truth behind appearances. And it's precisely this kind of reflection that we continue to build together here, always seeking to understand what lies behind the masks, the labels, and the choices that shape who we become. So, if this content made you think, made you feel, or simply reminded you of something that was already dormant inside you, take advantage and subscribe to the channel. Here, each video is another part of this journey, a conversation about transformation, mindset, and the hidden truths most prefer to ignore. Leave a like too, not out of habit, but so I know this kind of reflection resonates with you, and that it's worth continuing to delve deeper into these stories. And if you really came with me until the end, comment there, "I'm with you until the end." I want to see who remains steadfast on this journey, because that's how we recognize who understands the essence behind each word. Oh, and it doesn't stop there. There's a video right here that complements this topic. Click and continue with me there. The story still has many more layers to reveal.